If you spend all day on LinkedIn looking for your next big job offer, thinking you're being productive on your job search, you are digging yourself into a hole. And if I had to bet money, I'm going to guess that you are not going to find your next big job opportunity on LinkedIn in 2025. Here's the thing. I want you to stop viewing LinkedIn as a job searching website, and instead, let's just be honest and call it what it is, which is another social media platform, right? And as we know, with all social media platforms, their main intention is this: to keep you as the user on the platform for as long as possible, because the longer you stay logged in, the more profit they make. Now, am I saying that LinkedIn keeps people unemployed? Well, not necessarily, but I do believe that people who use LinkedIn as their main source of trying to find a job these days are going to have a harder time of, one, getting a job in general, and two, actually finding jobs that they're actually passionate about. And I believe this for three reasons. Number one, the platform makes it hard for you to stand out as a competitive candidate. Number two, networking and making connections isn't effective on the platform because it lacks humanity. And number three, LinkedIn steals your time and attention, both of which are valuable resources for your job hunt. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down these 3 points in detail. And I'm also at the end going to be giving you my take as a career coach on the other things that you should be doing outside of LinkedIn that actually produce better results for you. So if you're serious about landing your next big job opportunity in 25, stick around to the end of this video. I get it. Searching for a job right now is emotionally draining. From ghost job postings to getting ghosted by recruiters, I can totally see why a lot of people that I talk to just feel like giving up. And so I feel like a big part of the appeal of a platform like LinkedIn is that it's going to make things easy for you, right? I mean, if you really think about it, on one platform, you can apply for jobs, communicate with thousands of companies and their recruiters, and update your job history in real time for anyone to see. I mean, it sounds amazing, but could part of the problem with LinkedIn be that it's making things too easy? I absolutely think so, because with the barrier to entry being so low, everyone now uses LinkedIn. It's overpacked, and I think that's part of the problem. In fact, it's now a social norm that if you're going to be competing in the corporate world, that you maintain a LinkedIn profile. And with a lot of people that I talk to nowadays who are starting their job search, I think it's come to the point in our society where people start their job search by logging onto LinkedIn instead of going to network, searching up job companies that they would actually want to work for, etc., etc. And so this cultural and mental shift is actually great for LinkedIn as a platform and as a business because it's become one of the largest social media platforms out there. With over 1.15 billion with the B monthly active users, the platform now surpasses Snapchat, X, and Reddit. This should be concerning for you as a job seeker because in a lot of ways, finding a job is a game of numbers. So yes, we always say that the more jobs you apply to, the more likely you are to get one, right? But on the flip side, the more job seekers there are out there and the more job applicants there are for one single job, the harder it is going to be to get that one job that you really want. And so with how many people there are submitting job applications online through LinkedIn, it's making the competition more fierce than ever. That's why you have a bunch of people saying that they submitted like hundreds, maybe sometimes thousands with some crazy people, applications until they finally landed a job interview. And that's really scary because everyone is doing the same thing. Everyone realizes that this is now a game of numbers. And so everyone's doing the same thing, applying to hundreds, thousands of jobs. I mean, if you think about it and look at the statistics, every second 140 job applications are submitted through LinkedIn. That's 8,400 job applications per minute. So with this being the new normal where everyone is treating it like a game of numbers, that's going to make it more harder for you going forward as a job seeker. And also it's just going to make it hard for you to stand out as the competitive employee that you are because there are going to be hundreds of job applicants for a single job posting, especially the ones that you really, really want, right? Plus, not to mention that with the opportunity for remote work, not only are you just competing against people in your neighborhood, but you're also competing with people around the world, which is making your competition even harder. So unless you want to be one of those corporate influencers who are always posting on LinkedIn, trying to beef up their personal brand, there has to be a better way, right? So aside from being a numbers game, I'd say the game is actually more so about making connections. But I'm not talking about LinkedIn connections. I'm just talking about your average run-of-the-mill, everyday connections that you already have with people in real life. So when I look back at my own job history, I made a list of all the jobs and promotions that I've had in the last decade. And I want to say that over 90% of those jobs I've gotten through some sort of a connection. Maybe not necessarily that I got hired by that connection, but that the connection influenced the result of me being hired. The last job I had, for example, before starting my own business as a career coach, was given to me as a result of a very, very small connection. I mean, just to make a long story short, I had a friend of a friend who knew the hiring manager for the role that I was applying to. And basically in that game of telephone, I was able to get the hiring manager's contact information. And I basically sent her an email and said, hey, I just applied for the posting. Here's a little bit more about me. Here's how I got your contact info, basically from your friend. And then after that, through that seemingly trivial connection, the week later, I had an interview with her and her team. Pretty awesome, right? So yes, I still had to submit my resume, submit my cover letter, and make sure, of course, that I met the minimum requirements for the job like everyone else did. But me emailing her actually allowed me to stand out in the sea of resumes. And this was a pretty desirable job too. I mean, the stats of this job were like 6-figure salary, fully remote, great benefits, and it was in tech. And I bet that if I would never sent that email, I would have been ignored. Because if you can imagine being the hiring manager for a role like that, you're probably busy. On top of trying to hire for this role, you got your other roles and responsibilities. And if you have 100 applicants, or maybe sometimes thousands of applicants, do you really think that you are going to be able to equally weigh and equally contact every single qualified candidate? Absolutely not. You're going to be too busy. You won't have the time or energy. And so these days, hiring managers end up having to ignore a lot of great candidates. So depending on your luck, you might be the one getting ignored, unfortunately. Networking, though, allows you to circumvent luck. It allows you to get noticed and almost guarantees that a human will personally review your resume. And this is important because, yes, at the end of the day, we do have technology that allows us to review resumes and to source out candidates. But humans are still making the decision who to interview, who to push forward, and ultimately who to hire. So the power of networking isn't a new concept either. I mean, behind me, I don't know if you can see this little orange blob, but basically there was a book written by Keith Ferrazzi titled Never Eat Alone. And that was basically an entire book about the power of networking. And in the book, he references a study that surveyed young men, asking them how they got their current jobs. And the majority of them said that they got hired through a personal connection. And even though Keith Ferrazzi's book was published in 2005, I believe the information still holds true because, as I said before, the majority of the jobs that I've gotten in my lifetime have been a result of networking. And even when I asked a few of my friends who recently got hired for their recent positions in the last few months, they too said that they got hired through some form of a connection, but not a LinkedIn connection. I'm talking about a connection that they had in the real world, even a very small one. So my friend PJ, for example, got his job at Microsoft because of someone he knew from the Army. And then my other friend Rob got his job as a speech therapist at a research university because of the connections he made in his master's program. And so for PJ and Rob, my friends, these connections weren't even like really best friends or close relatives. These were just your everyday connections, the connections that you would never think would lead to a fruitful result like this. And in the book, Never Eat Alone, which I really do recommend, he explains why oftentimes it's our loose ties that bring us big results like this. And it's because these types of connections occupy way different worlds than the friends and the family members we have. And so they're able to lead us into new and exciting job opportunities. So what is it about networking that gives us this competitive edge? Well, first of all, and I think the most powerful aspect is that it allows you to cut through the noise. I mean, at a certain point, you just have to be so real with yourself and look at the numbers, right? 1.15 billion active monthly users, 140 job applications submitted every second that time passes, and thousands of applicants for a single job posting. I mean, if you have LinkedIn Premium, I think they allow you to see how many applicants there are for a role. And I've heard that for a lot of these competitive jobs, it's in the thousands, man. So if you don't want to rely on pure luck anymore, you have to find a way to get your job application and your resume in front of the eyes of the hiring team. And you do that by networking. Now I can hear you asking like, hey, isn't LinkedIn a great place to network? Well, let's think about it, right? So remember, this is a numbers game. And if you have a billion people on the platform all doing the same thing, like messaging recruiters and trying to reach out to people, your efforts, if you are doing that exact same thing that the other billions of users are doing, you're not going to stand out, right? So sure, LinkedIn does give the ability to actually directly message the recruiters, but their inboxes are probably filled with a bunch of random people just like you, desperate job seekers that are looking for a nibble. But wait, what if a recruiter reaches out to me personally? Isn't that a good sign? I wish it was, but oh my God, honey, you naive soul. So more often than not, recruiters have tools that allow them to batch send messages. And if they're hiring for a role, they can send thousands of messages all at once to people they think would be qualified all around the world for their job posting. And whether or not they respond to you again personally is just another luck of the draw, because if you can imagine, they're going to have thousands of people responding to that message. It's saying, hey, thank you for reaching out, recruiter. Oh my God, this is so cool. Not realizing that it's like an automated message that goes through, right? So I've heard so many stories of people saying that they get ghosted by recruiters even when the recruiter reaches out to them first. So I think the moral of the story and the point of what I'm trying to say is this, that there are just too many people on LinkedIn right now. Way too many spam messages being sent out, making it hard for you to stand out and making it hard to know who and what is real. That's why if you can network outside of the platform, your chances will increase exponentially. Even small networking efforts like asking a friend of a friend produce really big results. If a friend can put a good word in for you, you immediately have a way to prove your realness and prove your humanity. You're not just going to be another pixelated person that we're so used to seeing on our screens. And if you really think about it, do you really think that your LinkedIn profile, which is just another social media profile, and a PDF that we call your resume is really going to represent you and have people appeal to you as a unique and complex human being? Absolutely not. Because at the end of the day, people are more likely to do business with another human, another person that they know, like, and trust. You have to develop that know, like, and trust, KLT. Online applications through LinkedIn don't give you an opportunity to actually build that KLT with hiring teams, which is why I don't actually think that it's a great way to network on LinkedIn. So in a world where everyone seems like more connected, while somehow at the same time more lonely and disconnected from people, finding connections in the real world are actually going to help you immensely on your job hunt. So true networking allows hiring teams to feel that humanity for you that seems so stripped away on a site like LinkedIn. Even if you can say, oh, I know your friend, that immediately has a place in my heart. And that's why I think networking is so important. So I hope you're starting to realize that a lot of the energy that people put into LinkedIn is just often a lot of wasted time, energy, and attention that could be going somewhere else. There are other things that you could be doing outside of LinkedIn that are going to produce a way better result for you. But I also want to reiterate what I said at the beginning of the video. LinkedIn is a social media platform, and the way that social media platforms work and make profit is by stealing your time and attention. So just like any other platform, LinkedIn has an algorithm, and it can tell what posts and what videos and what think posts are going to get the most engagement, and those are the things that they're going to promote way at the top, and those are the things that hook you in, right? And it often feels like you're being productive because nowadays LinkedIn is viewed as a socially acceptable corporate venue, but are you really doing anything different than just scrolling through Facebook or scrolling through Instagram? I mean, as a consumer, you're still going to find yourself mindlessly scrolling on LinkedIn when you could be working on your job hunt. And so you have to be careful about the content that you're consuming on LinkedIn as well, because if you're constantly seeing posts from your friends, your family members, your colleagues saying, hey, I just got another promotion, you're going to feel down about yourself, but also you're going to set up unreal expectations about your job search. So instead of spending all day looking for a job on LinkedIn, here's what I want you to do instead. So first, and I think this is pretty clear by what I've been saying so far in the video, but you have to network in the real world. And I think networking is especially powerful nowadays because there's so many people who are socially anxious, a lot of people who are sheltered and live alone and don't talk to anyone. And so when someone actually talks to them, they're like, oh my God, wow. And so if you can network and appeal to that human factor that people have for social connection, that's going to produce huge results for your job search. And so you can start off very small by reaching out to your friends or family who work for companies that you may want to work at, or ask if they have friends or family members who work at interesting companies and see if they can hook you up, right? And the second thing I want you to do is, instead of applying on LinkedIn all the time, I want you to look at the company websites that you are interested in, do research, and then apply for the jobs on their websites. Because remember, not every job exists on LinkedIn. And if you're only applying to what LinkedIn gives you, you limit your options. And not only that, but you are willingly making your job search harder because you're limiting yourself to the highly impacted LinkedIn jobs, right? So applying directly to a company website gives you a better chance of being noticed because you're not going to drown yourself out in the sea of LinkedIn applicants. But also the thing that I like about applying to companies directly is that it really makes you an active participant. It allows you to be more intentional with places you want to apply to think about where you really want to work and who you want to work for. Because even though this may seem like more work, it's not about keeping this easy. I think LinkedIn's problem is that it has made things so easy and it's keeping you as a passive consumer, only consuming what jobs that they give you. But there are so many other jobs and opportunities out there. And so I want you to become an active participant in your job search. So in essence, I think the biggest problem with LinkedIn right now is that it speaks to this larger cultural narrative where we are uncomfortable with doing uncomfortable things. Like we want love, but we don't want to go up to the cute person at the coffee shop, so we use dating apps instead. We want connection, but we don't want to talk on the phone or use FaceTime with our family members or friends, so we text instead. We want jobs, but we don't want to have a real human interaction, even though studies show that human interactions are going to produce the most fruitful results on your job hunt, so we use LinkedIn instead. But if I've learned anything about success in my entire corporate career and my entrepreneurship journey, it's this. The people who are rewarded always do the uncomfortable things. Not just because the uncomfortable things are usually the path to success, but doing the uncomfortable thing makes you stand out. And a lot of people are feeling that on LinkedIn, you just can't stand out. With these job postings that have thousands and hundreds of applicants, how do you stand out? And you stand out by doing the uncomfortable thing. Networking, applying directly to company websites, all that stuff. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. And as someone who made it to the end of the video, I want to personally invite you to my free resume building workshop that I'm going to be hosting in February. During this workshop, I'm going to be going over the top 3 tips for capturing attention on your resume in this crazy job market. And I'm also going to be doing some live demonstrations. So if you want your resume personally edited during the workshop, go ahead and click the Google form in the description of this video. Or if you just want to watch the workshop and you don't really want to participate and get your resume edited, that is totally fine. Observers are welcome as well. But anyways, best of luck on your career journey in 2025. Take care.